everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Unwatched Pile. It's falling on me. Blu-rays everywhere. Watch out. Yeah, they're guys, if you're like any of us, we have tons of what movies we need to watch in our collections. And we are here to take them out one film at a time. With me, as always, is the man with the plan, which is always to watch movies. Andrew Cabral, how you doing?
Doing good, Steven. Doing good. I was just going to ask you how I looked on screen, but I guess can't really change anything now.
Well, you look fine. You're a little pixelated, but I don't know if that's my internet or your internet.
Could be either of them.
It could be mine. It usually always is, but hopefully people watching are getting a decent look at us. But we are here once again. This is number 11 of the Unwatched Pile. So if you have never watched this show before, as I said, we all have movies in our collections. Some of us like to blind buy a lot. Some of us blind buy a little bit. So there's maybe you have a box set that you haven't watched every film in. And so this show is where we decide, hey, enough is enough. I'm going to watch this movie. And then this said movie, dust it off the pile. We watch it, we discuss it. But then we're not done there. Then after we've watched that film, we're like, okay, what would pair good with it? What's something in my collection that would pair nicely with this? So not only are we watching something new in our collections, but we're also we're visiting something else in our collections that we like. So the audience gets a chance to see what, not only gets to hear us talk about something new that we've seen, but gets to kind of slowly get to know us as film people, through our collections. That's another thing I was thinking about the other day. I was like, we keep bringing up stuff that's in our collections and people are learning about what we like. So that's also
it does give us a chance to kind of, I guess, show off our collections a little bit, or
very slowly, but
something we don't get to do typically on Chasing Labels, because they're usually just talking about stuff that's
coming out.
Possibly going to be in our collection someday or sometime soon. So this is kind of taking a look back at what we have. I mean, and I was just thinking, I'm pulling something off of my to watch pile that's been sitting in my collection for 12 years unwatched.
And mine's has to be pretty long too. Mine is a DVD of a movie that came out in 2011. So
all right then.
I mean, it's got to be like 8 years or something like that, maybe. So maybe a little more than that. So we both got some long
into the archives.
Yeah, we really went deep on this one. But as usual, we like to bring along a guest. We always like to bring somebody in to do this with us because we want to share this. This is almost like an AA meeting, for people that are not watching stuff in their collection. We need to bring somebody else in to share the love of watching the movies that we need to watch. And so this time around, we have another one of fellow podcasters that love the boutiques. In this case, he is one of the co-hosts of the Indicator Cast and also the host of Imprint Cast, Mr. Tony Michas. How you doing, man?
Hello, how you going? Thank you both so much for the invite, and I'm really honored to be included in this first AA meeting.
Oh, well, first of many, sir.
Yeah. What's it called? DVDs Anonymous or Movies Anonymous? I guess
Blu-rays Anonymous, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Whatever anonymous, whatever anonymous. It's all good.
It's not anonymous because everybody can watch it. But,
I guess it's true.
But this is healthy. This is healthy for us to make sure that we're watching films in our collections and talking about them, and even sometimes deciding, hey, I don't really need this. That's important too. Has it happened yet? Not really. I think the closest I've gotten so far is Southland Tale. That's the closest, but I'm like, I held on to it. But Tony, how's everything going for you in the podcast that you run?
Well, so far so good. I co-host with John Matthews as well as I also co-host a regular collaborator on the Indicator Cast, which is John's baby, but Imprint is a collaboration with me and John as well, which is amazing. And very soon we're going to be doing a couple of special, special epic episodes that might be coming out soon. Like one of them, we have teased it a while ago, but it is happening, is we are going to be doing a very first director focus.
Okay.
So an entire episode dedicated to one director that Imprint Films have released one or more of their films. And the first one is Sam Peckinpah. So it is going to happen very soon. We have teased it a while, but scheduling and other personal stuff happening, and it's been postponed for a bit. So it is happening, but we have 4 planned for this year. So I'm not going to go any further than that, but so far the first one is Sam Peckinpah.
Fantastic.
So that's going to be fun.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. Peckinpah is somebody that you could really get lost in his filmography, but also get lost in his personal life.
True.
So it's an interesting first director focus there. So I'll be excited to see that one. Great, man. That sounds good. So, as usual, we're going to start with our guest. Tony has decided to go very, very artsy for, this might be a little bit of an artsy episode, maybe. I don't know. But he decided to go heavy with Bergman here.
I did decide to go heavy with Bergman. Well, first of all, this isn't, because, I'm hosting Imprint Cast, I might as well start off with an imprint title.
Sure.
And this is a worldwide first on Blu-ray. And I've never seen it. I've seen nearly every Bergman movie until this. Imprint has recently released Bergman's Face to Face from 1976, starring Liv Ullmann and Erland Josephson, who starred in many of Bergman's movies. I've been a huge fan of Bergman since I've seen, because of Woody Allen mainly, because I've just been obsessed with Woody Allen. And then after hearing how much he loves Bergman, and of course his film Interiors, which is definitely a Bergman-inspired movie, as well as other ones from the 80s, Another Woman, Crimes and Misdemeanors, and so forth. But yeah, it was Woody Allen who brought me onto Bergman. And the very first Bergman film I've ever seen was Fanny and Alexander. And I fell in love with that. And then I decided to go further into his career and seeing, of course, I can't not have a Bergman collection without this.
Oh, yeah.
This entire box set I've seen. So I've seen all that. But I just cannot believe that this film was never included in the box set. So, yeah, this was the first time for me watching this movie. And, wow, what can I say about it? It's Bergman. Expect something bleak. Expect something memorable. But the main thing is, it's Liv Ullmann's film. Liv Ullmann plays a psychiatrist named Jenny who actually suffers a mental breakdown. And yes, very fun film to watch for the Unwatched Pile, to say the least. But I will say this was one harrowing movie, and the performance of Liv Ullmann herself was just phenomenal. I can't praise it anymore. It was nominated for 2 Academy Awards for Best Director and Best Actress for Liv Ullmann. Well deserved. But yeah, this movie, also the cinematography was by Sven Nykvist, who worked on so many Bergman films and also worked with Woody Allen on Another Woman, and I believe in a couple of other films. But this one, yeah, first time I've seen this, because Imprint recently released it, and I cannot praise it enough. It is a very hard-hitting movie. It can be very harrowing in some parts, but all in all, if you love Bergman, here we go. This one I highly recommend, big time. I've never seen it, and until now, thank you so much for Stephen and Andrew for giving me an opportunity to finally watch this and promote it somewhere. So this is it. Perfect opportunity to show it.
Well, it's good. It's good. I mean, I know it just entered your Unwatched Pile because it recently
It has. But it is one
hey.
I have been dying to watch.
But Bergman, that's the thing about Bergman is I remember when I got my Bergman set, I was very excited to start watching Bergman. And I got about 2 discs in and realized I was overwhelmed. And so, when you're watching Bergman, really, I mean, honestly, to get something off the Bergman list is like an accomplishment. The fact that you got it off the list right away is a good thing, because a Bergman movie can sit on a shelf for years, because you're I mean, we've talked about this, Andrew, like you talk about like Tarkovsky films. You're like, you're just like, damn, I want to watch these. I want to watch Mirrors, or I want to watch one of these long Tarkovsky films. But you're like, I don't think I'm ready for it yet. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
happens.
that's the way Bergman has always been for me as well. Until I kind of dove right in and just washed myself in the Bergman-esque stuff. Just I mean, because once you get locked, he's one of those directors. Once you get locked into him, and you're really into locked in, you can't really escape for a while, and then it's hard to get back in once you do escape. Face to Face, though, yeah, I'm very surprised that it hasn't shown up on Blu-ray yet until now, just because
Yeah.
we've had so much Bergman released in the last few years. I think we've had sets from the UK put out. We had the big gigantic Criterion set like Tony just showed off. And it's just like, I guess that's the one that was missing from that set. I guess if you want to be complete, you're gonna have to pick that up some way somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, Face to Face, what an interesting film. Bergman is never he's never light for the most part. Like some of his early stuff is a little light.
So some of like the
but
summer interlude and stuff like that's a little
yeah,
light.
there's like some of his, like he's done like maybe one kind of comedy, but still comedies for him are not really light.
They're
And
not,
yeah, Face to Face is so cerebral because if anything, it's a good companion piece to a lot of his other work. You know what I mean? Because he's so psychological and he likes to mess with your mind so much. And Face to Face is dealing with something that is seemingly evergreen, the idea of mental health and mental health breakdowns and
it
all that
seems
kind
like
of stuff.
from the outside looking in, it seems like does it have a little bit of that Persona-esqueness to it? Like that kind of that film, Persona's got that very much that psychological, like, heaviness to it. Yeah. Does it have that same kind of,
the art house kind of avant-garde style? Because, and if anything, he does the mental breakdown so well because like the movie shifts into like so surreal that you don't know what's going on, but you're just along for the ride. It's kind of like a roller coaster ride. You just strap in and do the loop-de-loops and the movements and the turns, and very much Face to Face is kind of like that. You know what I mean? It's very much Persona-esque. Yeah, it's a great movie. It came out later in his career, if I remember correctly.
76.
76.
Yeah, it's kind of So it's before Fanny and Alexander, and it's kind of around the Autumn Sonata era, and the Autumn Sonata is also kind of dealing with familial issues. You know what I mean? Like past familial issues that heavily weigh psychologically on people. Family issues, mother issue, parent issues. You know what I mean? Cries and Whispers is kind of similar to that as well. I feel like that 70s era of Bergman is just so psychological. I think it started with Persona. He just like, how can I get even more psychologically traumatic to my audience? You know?
True.
Yeah, I was gonna ask what's the favorite Bergman film?
Oh, well, I gotta say, my favorite will always be Fanny and Alexander. I've always loved that one. But there's just so many masterpieces he's made. Seven Seals, Scenes from a Marriage, Cries and Whispers. There's just so many, as well as Virgin Spring, Wild Strawberries. The list can go on forever. But to me, my favorite Bergman film will always be the very first one I've ever seen. That is Fanny and Alexander. To me, that has a special place in my heart, definitely.
Awesome. I have a hard time because, like, I mean, obviously there's kind of many different like there are some different sides to him depending on what era you like. I kind of like some of the really early stuff, like Summer Interlude. That's like really kind of has a sweetness to it. But Wild Strawberries is one that is kind of has that surrealness to it that I like. The Magician. Them are a couple that I really like. I know, Andrew, you're just going to list off like 1,000.
Well, I was thinking of what's the one. I think it's Smiles of a Summer Night is the one that's considered one of his comedies.
Yeah, that's one of the early ones. Yeah,
and that's one of the early ones from '55. But yeah, I started off the card with The Seventh Seal. I think that was. I wouldn't recommend people starting off with The Seventh. It may rattle you. Me, I do think Summer, his earlier stuff, is your way to get in. Virgin Spring probably not the best place to start. But for me, it was a lot of those early works. Persona, I think, is just a movie in and of itself. So that may be my favorite.
Yeah.
But Autumn Sonata does star my favorite actress in um, Ingrid Bergman. No relation to Ingmar Bergman.
No relation.
People seem to confuse that, but no relation. Kind of like how Audrey Hepburn and Katharine Hepburn also not related, just happen to have last names that are famous now because of them. And that movie I think is movie's temporary in dealing with the issues of a parent-child relationship and how those can extend from childhood to adulthood, and if they're never like figured out or dealt with, just can stay with you forever. And we see that happen all the time in modern society. So I mean, that's very contemporary.
Yep. Well, yeah, Bergman's somebody I really feel like I want to get back into. It's been a minute since I've kind of delved back into him. So you gave me some motivation, Tony. Thank you for that.
Pleasure to do it.
yeah, I really, really want to delve back in. But before we move on to Andrew's pick, we got some comments here I meant to get at the beginning. Of course, Josephine's always in here, starting out hot. Yes, giving us a happy Easter. Thank you, Josephine. And then, of course, John Matthews here for your boy.
My colleague.
Yes. And some regulars here, of course. Thank you. Hello. And apparently, Horror Honey has seen this film and loved it.
Oh, good.
So, also we got John. Have you seen The New Land and the Immigrants? Liv is amazing.
I think she must be talking about me.
Yeah.
Yes, I have seen The New Land and the Immigrants.
Maybe she was talking to John in chat. Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Definitely.
You did. Yeah. Next comment meant Tony.
I mean, that's okay. Yes, I have seen it. I have seen both of those films. Very good. Yes, Liv as always is amazing. That one for sure.
Cool. All right. So, Andrew,
yes.
you as you said, you picked one deep in the archives of your Unwatched Pile. Tell us about your film.
Did indeed. Let me get back to you because I was actually just looking up Liv Ullmann. She's actually still acting, if I remember correctly. Yeah. But anywho, my pick, actually digging deep into my vault, a movie that I bought probably 12 years ago, put it in a director section of my collection, and then just left it there and always meant to go back to it, but never did. And that is Dirty Pretty Things, the film directed by Stephen Frears.
Oh, wow.
Starring Chiwetel Ejiofor, Audrey Tautou. And this was before Chiwetel Ejiofor was, I think, on anyone's radar. This was even before he was in Serenity, which would come out a few years later, where he played like this assassin in the Serenity, which was the continuation of the Firefly television series. And Audrey Tautou, this was, I think this was right after she was in Amelie. This was right after. I think Amelie was 01 or 02, somewhere around there. I'm probably going to look that up. But this is the film that Stephen Frears did after he had done High Fidelity. He had done a few movies in the same years, if you look at his filmography, which I have. He had done High Fidelity in the year 2000. He had done Failsafe, which is a TV movie of the adaptation of the same novel that the movie Failsafe, the one directed by Sidney Lumet, was also an adaptation of. Okay. And of course, Dr. Strangelove was the kind of parody adaptation of the same novel, Failsafe. I think the novel was called Red Alert. But either way, he did that, and then he did a movie called Liam, and then he did Dirty Pretty Things. But this was a movie I've had on my, like I said, on my shelf for 12 years, because this is interesting here. This is a Miramax film. And for those of you who are in the collecting community, or maybe for those of you who don't know, the Miramax catalog has been all over the place over the last decade or so. Everyone's kind of got their hands on it at one point, and then it switched hands at one point. But from 2011 to 2014, this company called Echo Bridge Entertainment had their hands on 251 Miramax titles. Dirty Pretty Things being one of them. They had their hands on To Die For, which just got a Criterion release. They had their hands on the From Dusk Till Dawn films, Prophecy, the films where Christopher Walken, which just got a Vinegar Syndrome release recently. So we're getting like slowly like Dimension and Miramax stuff is coming back into light, and coincidentally, Imprint's going to be putting out an edition of this movie now. But I've had this in my collection for so long, and it's a movie that is interesting to me because I had a different perception going into it. It's a movie that I thought was going to be a little kind of darker because it's dealing with certain elements. So, Chiwetel Ejiofor and Audrey Tautou are immigrants living in London, England, and they work at a hotel. And they work obviously, off the book because they're illegal immigrants. They can't be put on any type of registry or anything like that. So Chiwetel Ejiofor is a cab driver by day, and then he works as a bellhop or a concierge at this hotel by night. But he's also a doctor. He was a doctor in his country that he was from, Lagos, Nigeria. But when he came, obviously, to this country or to England more specifically, he couldn't, perform that career path anymore, as we see with a lot of immigrants who immigrate to different countries. And that's kind of what I found more interesting about this movie, is that it's more of a story dealing with those thematic elements than actually what I thought it was going to be. And for example, what I'll pitch to you, and you can maybe have the same idea that I had. So he's working in this hotel, and then one night, a woman who works as a prostitute regularly at the hotel says, "Hey, one of the toilets are clogged in one of the rooms I was just in. Can you go? Obviously, can you go take care of it?" So he goes up there, and what he finds is a human heart in the toilet. And you may think it's kind of comedic, but it's also kind of jarring. It's wildly jarring because what you end up learning is that behind the scenes of this hotel, the person who runs the hotel is running kind of a black market of organ donations. And he's taking the organs from illegal immigrants and in turn giving them paperwork like passports and visas and things like that in turn for their like kidneys and such. And so when I initially heard that premise, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a dark, gruesome, kind of visceral type of movie. And it's really not. It's more so exploring the kind of the depths of desperation of a lot of immigrants who have to immigrate to other countries and what they're willing to do to better their lives, to go to such extremes as literally having open body surgery in order to fulfill their dreams of a better life. Takes it to that extreme. And in a way, in exploring that, hits on something much deeper and much more profound and contemporary than I thought was going to be featured in this film. So it's a really, really more obviously deeply narrative film than I thought. And I really, really like the film a lot. It's very well acted, very well written. It's a very tight film. The film is only about 97 minutes long or so. And it's dealing, like I said, with that deep thematic stuff, but really well done. It was a film, like I said, directed by Stephen Frears, but written by Stephen Knight. And for those of you who may have that name recognized in your head, you're on the movie Locke with Tom Hardy. He was also, I believe, the creator of such shows as Peaky Blinders. Obviously with Cillian Murphy, and then Tom Hardy obviously showed up in there at one point. Also that show Taboo that I think only had one season with Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
He was in there as well. But Peaky Blinders, I think, is probably the one people know of the most. And this movie was also nominated for a few Oscars, actually. I actually was nominated for one Oscar before I get ahead of myself. It's a movie that was nominated for, I think, Best Original Screenplay. Just to give you a sense of what type of movie it is, really having that strong writing. And it's a very strong film. This release here, although it's from a company that probably no one remembers or even knows of, does have a commentary and does have like a little 6-minute behind the scenes special feature. So I'm hoping this movie gets a better release now on Blu-ray that's coming out, because this video transfer wasn't too great, but it's kind of, a budget release for its time. I think I picked this up for like less than $10. These Echo Bridge releases ended up in a lot of bargain bins over the years. at least here in the US. I remember digging through bargain bins and seeing tons of them. Unfortunately, the company Echo Bridge lost the rights to all of those movies in 2014, and then these immediately became out of print. Immediately went away, and I think since then Paramount I think has picked up a lot of the rights to the Miramax stuff. I know that we talked recently that they're putting out The Crow on 4K, or yeah, because they picked up a lot of the licenses that Lionsgate had, and Paramount and Lionsgate are basically the two guys right now that got a lot of the rights to Miramax films, and yeah, so that's Stephen Frears' Dirty Pretty Things. Also, I like the title. They talk about the title in the movie, where basically, you know, a job at a hotel like they work at is to turn dirty things into pretty things after people leave, and that's kind of an interesting poetic, but also kind of a weird thing that you would associate with a hotel, which are notoriously not the most cleanly places in the world if you think about it.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I can't wait to see what you pair this with.
It wasn't easy, but actually, you know what? I had a movie that popped into my head immediately, and I just stuck with that. Not going to make things difficult.
I had a similar thing too, because I feel like my film has a very kind of specific plot that kind of has a lot of options. So well, yeah, I like that. Didn't you? I know maybe I blanked on it, but this is one of the films in the new neo noir set.
Yes,
right?
The one that's coming out from Imprint.
Yeah, cool.
So
I'm excited.
It covered a few bases for me.
Yeah,
just having a look at it now. It actually has an audio commentary from Stephen Frears, as well as the original promotional featurette, which I'm assuming is the same extras that's on the.
That's the same. That's the same that's on here.
Yeah. But it does say there are more special features TBC. So there are more special features coming. Just don't know what yet. So it will be coming out in the Neo Noir 3. That set alone is going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited. I love them Neo Noir sets. All right, so now we're going to head over to mine. And I said this in the last Chasing Labels. It got brought up. I don't even remember how it got brought up. But I guess we were talking about Abel Ferreira. We were talking about, huh?
We were talking about his movie that's coming out.
Bad Lieutenant?
Coming out from Kino.
Yeah,
it was the one before Bad Lieutenant.
Well, yeah, it was one of his films. Were coming out on 4K.
Yeah, I'm going to look it up right now.
I think it is Bad Lieutenant.
Well, no, coincidentally, the day after we had recorded our most recent episode, they announced the Bad Lieutenant 4K. so we got caught up. We got caught up in it. So it's what's the name of the movie?
Dangerous Game.
Dangerous Game. Yes.
Okay,
that's the one.
And I brought up a film I had in my collection. That I was like, at first I was like, I think the only Abel Ferreira film I've really seen or have in my collection is The Addiction. And then you brought up the movie from King of New York. And I was like, oh yeah, I got that too. And then I was like, wait a second, I think I have another one. And it's this film right here. 444 Last Day on Earth, starring Willem Dafoe. A film that I think I just, I saw the cover and I was like, oh, it's Willem Dafoe. It's the guy that plays Green Goblin from Spider-Man, And I was like, at the time, I was like, that's why I chose it. I was like, I had no other reason. So yeah, I got it. This movie came out in, I think, 2011. And it's been sitting in my collection ever since, carried around to many different places that I've lived. And I still hadn't watched it. Now, finally, I've gotten around to it. So this film, and somebody already thinks it's great. So this film is about, as it says in the title, the last day on Earth, essentially. But so it's set in New York. And Willem Dafoe is this like veteran actor. He's an actor who's, moderately successful actor. He's got this loft in New York, and he's with his young girlfriend, who he, very much loves. She's also an artist. She's a painter, and they start to hear news that, in a short amount of time, the world's going to end exactly 444 on this date, whatever the date is. And so, they don't really get deep into how. It's something to do with greenhouse gas, the ozone layer essentially, melt, going away, and then the sun rays kills everybody, whatever. That's not what's important. The movie is essentially a movie about how people deal with this idea, like that they know that there's a finality to their life, that they know it's coming, and how everybody deals with it. And we mostly focus on the Willem Dafoe character, who's having a hard time understanding how he should deal with it. Should he be, and he's looking to different people to figure out what is the best way to deal with this. Does he go find family? Does he get in touch with family, which he's estranged from his ex-wife and his daughter? He's got his girlfriend. Does he seek out some old friends? So he goes through the motions, kind of figuring out how he should handle this. And throughout it, he has a lot of just emotional outbursts. I mean, there's scenes of people just walking off their, New York high rises and committing suicide. And he's just like, holy shit, like Jesus, like, and then they're like, he's dead on the ground, and people kind of do the thing you expect to do. They go over and like cover him up, and he's just like, no, don't touch his body. Leave him alone. Like he doesn't even know how to act. Like, and so this movie is not a plot driven movie. It has a conundrum, and then it's really about a character study about a man who's finding it hard how to find meaning in this last moments. Like, what should he do? What is like when nothing really matters anymore? Everybody's kind of either deciding to act like it's not going to happen, like that this is a lie, or that they're partying it up. They're doing drugs. They're trying to live their highest life before they die. And so he's somewhere in between. And by the end of the film, he kind of finds this place that I guess he feels safest. And, I don't know that this film, I don't know that I could, I'm sorry, I don't know if I can agree that this is a great movie. I think it's filmed well. I think it's really well filmed. I think it's a long-time collaborator, cinematographer, and Abel Ferrara has always been a really good, stylish filmmaker. But this is really low budget, and that's part of what I like about it is high concept, very small scale, like zeroing in on a character study. And I think Willem Dafoe carries this movie. I think he's definitely the best part of this movie, but almost everybody else, it kind of doesn't really do enough. The girlfriend's not really, there's not enough there. She's not really, I don't know that I really cared for her acting in the film. She was okay. Natasha Leon makes an appearance in the film. She plays a friend, girlfriend of a friend who was a drug addict, and he got clean, and then now he's back to doing it because he's like, who fuck cares? Like, we're gonna die, So yeah, I mean, this movie was okay. It was an okay watch. It's definitely an artsy movie, a meditation, with a really good Willem Dafoe performance, which is not anything new. He's always usually pretty invested and pretty good. So anybody else had a chance to see this film?
No.
No, but I'm intrigued though.
Okay.
I'm a huge Ferrara fan. That's one I haven't seen.
Okay.
Like I've seen many Ferrara movies, especially probably one of my favorites with Willem. One of my favorite Willem Dafoe performances from a Ferrara movie was Pasolini, where he plays Pier Paolo Pasolini, and he was phenomenal in that film. But of course, Ferrara, he's hit and miss. He's not he's definitely one of those directors that you either love or you hate. Like Bad Lieutenant, I think it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Ms. or MS 45, that's another good one, as well as The Addiction, as you said before, Stephen. That is phenomenal.
Yeah, I like that film. Yeah.
Yeah, short, small budget, black and white movie about vampires. Brilliant. Yeah. But then, of course, in the early stages of his career, The Driller Killer. But then, of course, he started in porn. And of course, Vinegar Syndrome, Melissa's first film, I believe it was called 9 Lives of a Wet Pussy. I don't know if I would say that, but that is his movie. Yes,
not subtle title
subtle.
there.
subtle. That's true. But no, I'm a fan of Farrar, but I have not seen that one. I would love to eventually, definitely.
It's an interesting film. I can't say I loved it. It's like it's somewhere in the middle for me. It's like a 5 to 6 out of 10. For me, like it's like has a lot of good aspirations. It's well made, and a good central performance, but it's a little lacking in some of its themes, like exploring the themes, and some of the supporting cast just didn't bring it like Defoe did. So that's where it lacks for me. It is a nice 82 minutes, like it's short. It doesn't feel long.
Nice.
So it's not, it's a nice brisk watch, but it's okay. Yeah. I mean, it's fine. Horror Honey says, have a huge love for Ebel unpopular films, Go-Go Tales, Back Out, and Welcome to LA. I have not seen any of them.
No, have I?
Yeah. Okay. Well,
yeah, I've got to see more Abel Ferrara, even like maybe his lesser stuff, as Tony was saying. He has 53 directing credits according to IMDb, so there's plenty to choose from.
He's an independent. He's definitely a low budget filmmaker that just consistently just keeps working and working. He's kind of like
he's not mainstream.
He's like Ridley Scott, but on a low budget. Like he's like really hit or miss, but he's always doing shit. Like always.
Yeah, he's always coming out with something. Like he's having a movie come out this year, 2024, Turn in the Wound. He had a movie come out in 2022 called Padre Pio. He's always working stuff, but like I said, he's way far outside of the mainstream of things. Like he's probably been doing his things his way ever since the 70s. I've always felt like that's been him. Like he's gonna make his movies he wants to make,
and that's cool. That's and honestly, a director like this is the most exciting to think about years down from now, because it's like when he's done, we can revisit stuff and be like, maybe they were just movies that weren't understood in their time. So
I do like how he directed 2 episodes of Miami Vice in the 1980s. I kind of wanted to see what that would look like.
Yep.
That may be his most mainstream of any of his work, going back to 1985.
Yeah.
But I did like Dangerous Game, which we talked about on a recent episode of Chasing Labels. I'm actually super excited for Bad Lieutenant. I have an old Blu-ray of that. That's definitely going to be a worthy upgrade. King of New York, I was actually just talking about that movie with a friend of mine the other day. I still want to get the Arrow 4K release, which came out a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Because it was a UK only release and it didn't get a US release stateside. So I don't even know who may have the rights here. I'm not sure. I know they put out a Blu-ray many moons ago, but that's a good movie. Christopher Walken is in that film, and he's pretty great.
Yeah, I have that Arrow 4K release, and it is great. It looks amazing, and of course, the movie itself, King of New York, is phenomenal.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so this DVD, it's from IFC Films, and I don't think it's got a Blu-ray, but at least not in the US. But feature-wise, a trailer. So that's it.
The old
okay,
the old just trailer, not interactive menu or anything like that.
And I'll tell you, Steven, it does have a Blu-ray release.
Does it?
From IFC Films from 2012. So probably right around the time you got that.
Well, that's fine. The DVD looked fine, as a lot of DVDs do. They looked fine. It looks fine. So, all right. Well, now we're making our way back around. Now we need to find out what Tony has paired up with Bergman's Face to Face.
What does one pair with Bergman?
That was a tough one. The only thing I could do was pair it with another Bergman.
Oh, wow.
I did a Bergman double
Bergman on this. Whoa.
And it was the only thing I could think of. Like, there was like so many movies I could have chosen, like Scenes from a Marriage, Hour of the Wolf, Persona. There was just a lot. But in the end, I decided to go for a shorter film this time. Of course, Face to Face was 136 minutes long. Yeah, I decided to choose Cries and Whispers. from 1972, and that's a mere 91 minutes. So that's very, very short. But yeah, oh boy, it was the only thing I could think of that I thought would be a good double with Face to Face. But yeah, of course, Cries and Whispers is as most people would probably have seen, is an Academy Award winner for its cinematography, but of course by Sven Nykvist, and stars Liv Ullmann, Harriet Anderson, who else? Of course, Erland Josephson's in it again, as well as Kari Selwyn and Ingrid Thulin. It's a story about three sisters, one who is unfortunately dying of cancer, and their living maid. But once we see the movie, that you see flashbacks of their lives and how they're not so close as they used to be. But the only one who is really close to the dying sister is the maid, and that they have a real special bond. But the other two sisters, they have their own dark history. There are some scenes in the movie that are a little confronting, to say the least. And yeah, but of course, a story about death and yes, another Bergman, death.
Yeah, sounds like a heavy afternoon. As the best word I can say, heavy afternoon.
I decided to go a little heavy. I couldn't think of another one. I couldn't think of something
else.
Hey,
look, just for future reference. Hey, when you come back now, when you do double features, it doesn't have to be. You can do a double feature however you want. If you want to do one that's like a contrast to the movie, like double features can be however you want them to be. They don't have to be literally like finding a movie that's exactly like the other movie. Like,
right.
You go however you want to do it, So
yeah, but it's so tough to like pair Bergman with anything because it's so unique.
It is true.
It is. Yeah.
It's tough to describe Bergman, really. You know what I mean? You kind of have to experience it for yourself just to understand what the heck someone's saying when they're describing it. You know what I mean? Especially Cries and Whispers, which is dealing with so much, I would say, emotional baggage, really. Yeah. And so that's the type of things that he likes to really dive into. A lot of existentialism. So much existentialism in his films. I remember seeing Through a Glass Darkly for the first time, and that movie just absolutely blew me away in terms of the emotion in it. Just incredible stuff.
Awesome. Yeah. All right, so everybody, whenever we're done with this show, you do your Bergman double feature. You got Face to Face and Cries and Whispers. Everything about the face, apparently. Crying and just looking at faces.
That's basically right.
Yeah. All right, so that's our first double feature completed. Andrew, please get the second double feature, the one that goes with Pretty Dirty Things. God, so many adjectives.
Dirty Pretty Things.
Nouns and things.
So immediately when I was watching the film and when I said like, oh, now I understand what this movie is really about, what this movie is really going for, what this type of movie is, this exploration of the plight of immigrants, being desperate to survive and all that kind of stuff. One movie immediately came to mind, and then I was like, I'm going to choose this one. And this is a movie called Takeout by Sean Baker.
Nice.
It's a movie that I've only discovered over the last few years because of this literal release that came out from the Criterion Collection. And then we had Sean Baker on as a guest on the podcast to talk about, the process of getting released to come out and all about it. I thought of this movie just because I was trying to pair it up with something dealing with, like I said, the plight of immigrants and all the things they have to deal with and the way in which they have to navigate the law and society when they come to a new country. The whole fish out of water scenario, but it goes obviously much more deeper than that. So Takeout is a movie set in New York, so completely different country, different sets of rules, different circumstances of people trying to survive. And it's about someone who works takeout for a Chinese restaurant, and he is an immigrant who owes people money who were able to get him into the country, getting him like the paperwork that you need to get through customs and immigration and all that kind of stuff. All of these things, you know what I mean? And he owes those people money, and they're basically shaking him down for it. And they've given him a deadline, and the deadline, I believe, is like that night to do it. And his job is literally working takeout on a bicycle in New York City. And that's how he's kind of trying to come up with the money, desperately trying to do as many deliveries as he possibly can to make this money, pushing himself in like the pouring rain at night in New York City to make that happen. And so the movie's very much an exploration of that sense of desperation to literally, save yourself. I'm assuming that if you don't pay these people, bad things will happen. You know what I mean? You don't mess around with any type of organization like that. I mean, it's kind of any type of organized crime, any type of organized whatever. You don't mess with that. So the movie's very much an exploration of that, but it's kind of like what Steven was saying before. It's a movie on a small, low budget scale, but obviously is commenting on a much larger issue. You know what I mean? Like, the existential crisis of an immigrant trying to survive. And in a way, that is what Dirty Pretty Things is also a film about as well. It's just obviously completely different set of circumstances. That one's dealing with like black market, organ buying stuff. This is dealing with somebody taking out Chinese takeout, yet they're both about people trying to survive in a rather similar situation. So yeah, that's why I chose this. If for those of you who don't have this yet, I would highly recommend it. I know there's a flash sale just happened, but I know the Barnes and Noble sale is coming up soon. If you're looking for a blind buy, I definitely recommend this. Is a nice kind of indie film blind buy as well. Yeah, Sean Baker's a really good indie director. I think he's one of the best, and I always look forward to his work.
This one's co-directed with somebody, right?
It is co-directed. You're right, Steven. Yeah. Let's see. The American Dream has really seemed so far away, as in Sean Baker and Shi-Ching Su's Raw Verite Takeout. So yes.
Yeah, it's a good one. I remember when we talked to him about, because we talked to him right around the time this got released, and yeah, it's a heartbreaking movie. I mean, just like scenes of like him working his ass off, and like you said, in the pouring rain, he gets his money stolen from him, and like shit like that. Like it feels like there's just no. In this film, he gets to a place where there's just nothing. It's like he fights to get to this place, but then it's almost just as bad as where he came from. Like it feels like that there's no escape. There's no like happy ending to this. What this is supposed to be, the American dream, like it's almost doesn't exist.
And what is interesting is that in Dirty Pretty Things, there is a plot line of this kind of escape to America, to better your life. And what is interesting is that, in this film, it kind of shows that that idea is kind of false and fake. But in Dirty Pretty Things, Audrey Tauto's character has this kind of grand idea of like skyscrapers in New York City and Central Park and getting off the plane and having all these dreams and wonders of a better life here in the US. Yet you watch a movie like Takeout and it's like, no, the grind just persists. And in a way, that's kind of reality. Whereas the grind persists no matter where you are. There is no, as sad as this sounds, there may not be a dream. There is no other side of the rainbow, as Wizard of Oz would make you think there is. You know what I mean? And it's kind of pessimistic. It's a very pessimistic group of films we have here, Steven. Yours is like the end of the world. Tony's is existential nightmares. Mine is life sucks no matter where you are. Really.
Yeah, it's a good episode, isn't it, guys?
Seems to be kind of a theme, to say the least.
It's gonna get better. Not really. Not with my last pick, but before we head there, Humboldt Horror Honey says she feels like she's the only one that does not have the Bergman scent.
Oh, you're missing out.
Yeah, and
well, who knows? Who knows?
Also thinks you have a good double feature, Andrew. What were you saying, Tony?
I was just saying, with the Barnes and Noble sale coming up, good chance to get it.
Hey, delve in, get it. It's worth it. It's worth it.
Oh, thank you for the compliment. The nice double feature.
Yeah,
it just popped in my head. It comes natural to us sometimes, Steven, when we do this for so long.
You get good at this sometimes. Sometimes it's tough depending on what the movie is, but especially if it's a movie you don't like, it's like you're like, God. So that's when I get creative. But this one wasn't that hard for me because like a movie came right to mind. The only thing I was worried about is whether I had it or not, and I did. Luckily, I was like, thank God I got it because it was the perfect movie because it's like the same plot and it's got similar themes of people having a hard time figuring out, what they do with their time, like left on this earth, like, where should they go? And it just felt like the perfect pairing. So, 444 Last Day on Earth is going to be paired with Seeking a Friend at the End of the World, with Steve Carell, Keira Knightley. And I know you've seen this, Andrew. I know you have. Have you seen it?
I have seen it. I just didn't know that you had it in your collection.
How would you know everything I have in my collection, Andrew?
I've known you long enough. I feel like we share a mind.
I feel like you're crazy. There's no way you can know almost 4,000 movies in my collection.
Well, I feel like you would have mentioned it at some point. I don't know.
I don't know. This movie came out in 2012.
Yes,
so,
I remember when it came out. It made the rounds at like the indie festivals and stuff.
Yeah. So in this film, it's a little more. This would be, I would consider, the accessible version of this movie, I guess, for the mainstream audience. Even though when it came out, it really didn't get the praise. It very much, I think, it flopped at the box office and everything. And but this film, our destroyer of Earth is an asteroid, which is classic. Classic asteroid hit the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so they know now that they only have like 3 weeks before it hits. So we have Steve Carell, who's kind of, lonely guy. He's married, but his wife leaves him literally at the beginning of the movie. Like they hear the news that asteroid's coming, and then his wife jump out of the car and runs away from him, and then you never see her again.
Wow.
So
Okay.
So you have Steve Carell, and now he's forcibly divorced. And he's now trying to figure out what to do with his time. He actually goes to work, like, maybe he can just pretend that, he could just go about his time, and because he just doesn't know what to do with himself. And, so this is like what we would call a comedy drama or dramedy. There is a lot of drama in this film, but it's supposed to play for funny. It's not always funny. That's part of the down part of this movie, is that it's not as funny as I think it wants to be. But it's a solid movie. It's an okay movie. Good little indie movie for something that's big concept but small scale once again. And Keira Knightley plays a neighbor who has just broken up with her boyfriend because the boyfriend killed her chance at getting a chance to go home in England to see her family for the last time. So she broke up with her boyfriend. So they meet, she's crying and everything like that. And so they hook up and have a bond. And the kind of the driving force of the film is that Steve Carell finds this old letter that he had gotten from a high school sweetheart, finding out that this girl really liked him. And so he wants to try to find her before this asteroid hits. And Keira Knightley decides to go with him because she has a car, and she decides to go with him because Steve Carell says he knows somebody that can get her a plane to go see her family. So they go on this kind of road trip. It becomes a road movie, and they start to bind slowly, and it becomes this thing of they're looking for these external things that they don't know if they'll ever be able to get back to or get at all. And what we find out by the end of the movie is that they at least have each other. And so there's a little bit more of a positive feel to this film. It's got a more, uplifting hopefulness to the end of this film. I'm not going to say how it ends. But it's got that, it's very similar plot wise, but it's got kind of a different tone, different pathway to what when it's talking about the themes. It goes about it differently than 444 Last Day on Earth. So I find it to be a nice watch. It's like I said, it's not a perfect movie. It's not the funniest. It's not maybe the best cast. Keira Knightley's nice. They're both, I don't know if there's some elements of the story, like there is a little bit of a romance that I feel like might be unnecessary between their characters. and they're vastly different ages. Obviously, she says she's 28 in the movie. Steve Carell's got at least be 40s, something like that, 40s, maybe into 50s. So it's there's elements that don't work, but all in all has a nice message. I think the ending's nice. And yeah, what do you think, Andrew? You're the other one that's seen it.
It's been many years since I've seen it. I probably haven't seen the movie in, I don't know, over 10 years or so. Because it did come out in 2012, and it's a movie that it's interesting because it's I believe it's one of the first films, not one of the first films, but it's after Steve Carell has left The Office. It's him trying to, go to make movies again. This was after he had done Crazy Stupid Love, which is a movie I really like. So
Yeah,
it's kind of a more serious but darkly humored film because obviously dealing with the end of the world scenarios, it's going to be innately dark. So it's an interesting kind of moment, I think, in Steve Carell's career. It's obviously before he had done Foxcatcher. It's an interesting moment for him. Keira Knightley, I feel she's fallen back into that indie realm after doing all those Pirates of the Caribbean films. So if anything, it was kind of after that, I think, as well. So you've got like two actors kind of in an interesting kind of crossroads in their career, having been so popular and then now doing more indie flavors type of stuff. So yeah, it's an interesting film. It's tough talking about the movie without talking about the end. I'll just say that. It's a movie that, it's like, I think one of our watchers says that it's cute. It's more cute on the surface.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know, kind of the whole existential end of the world thing always seems really sad to me. I'm thinking of Miracle Mile. For those of you who've seen that movie, I kind of thought you were going to pair it up with that, perhaps.
I don't have that film in my collection, so
that movie has been rumored to have some type of remastered re-release now for at least a few years. I think since we started our podcast, Stephen. Yeah. And I don't know if it was going to get a 4K at some point or just a remaster or something. It's still available on Blu-ray. That's a really good movie dealing with a similar situation, finding a relationship as the world may or may not be ending. You know what I mean? Which seems like a dire circumstance, but sometimes you find great humanity in it. So that's an
I mean, both these movies, and I think more so Seeking a Friend, it really hones in on the idea that human connection is really what you want, but when you know that it's going to all be over soon. You're not, some people, as you see in 444 Last Day on Earth, there is a lot more of a need to get, it's a lot more edgier. It's an edgier film. There's a lot more, let's get drugs, let's have sex. And this film has that too. There is definitely like moments of like, there's one guy in a scene that's like an older guy, and he's like, I haven't laid so many women in this amount of time, like my whole life. Like he's having sex with all these women,
right,
just because they just want to get laid, before they die, So it's like, there is, but it's done in a more comical way, dealing with that aspect of it. But really, our central characters are more, they're looking for the human connection and feeling like there's somebody that cares about them that's there before it's all over. And so and then the romantic aspect of it, kind of, to me, just kind of it may be a little unnecessary.
What's interesting is that it seems to be touching on very humanistic themes in terms of, even if the world wasn't ending, you kind of want those types of relationships in your life, whether they're romantic or not. Genuine human connection, genuine friendship, relationships, stuff like that. Love doesn't have to be always romantic. Love can be, there's many different forms of it. And I feel like, films hitting on something like that. For some reason, I'm also thinking like Lost in Translation. I'm thinking of that relationship, where there's companionship at a specific point in one's life, that you don't quite know what it is. You just know that it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah. It's kind of like that thing where people say you don't really know how much you care about something until it's gone. Well, in this case, they know they're going to be gone. So it's almost like the same feeling. Like you know you're going to be gone soon, so that it comes out. The best of us comes out. You know, the best of us reaching out with the best of us, ourselves wanting to love and connect with people is what that film brings. I think more so than the Abel Ferrara film, which is more dark and cynical and like.
Well, that seems more Abel Ferrara toned.
And there, I mean, honestly, I mean, I don't want to give away the ending. I think the ending gets you to a place that's a little bit more on this film's level, but it's not quite the same tone. But I think it's a solid double feature, especially if you like these movies. Like, I think both of these movies are okay movies. But that's what I had to work with. I had to work with my first time watch is what I had to work with. So, but they're both solid watches. I wouldn't say not to watch these movies. So that is my double feature, and that is it for this Unwatched Pile.
Before you go, I gotta say,
Sure.
I thought you would have chosen Lars von Trier's Melancholia as your second film, but
Wow,
no.
we really wanted to make this super
that
dark.
Would have been would have been the cherry on top of the melancholic cake.
It
really.
would have been, definitely.
I-
That film, I don't think it even got an Australian release, which is a real shame because the premise of it does sound interesting. I could be wrong, but I haven't seen it on physical media in Australia anywhere, or I don't think it even got a theatrical release. But yeah, I've never heard of it also, but now I'm actually intrigued with that one. Definitely.
Yeah, honestly, it's like its own genre, really. It seems like there is a ton of movies about end of world but on a small scale and focusing in on a relationship or a person. Like that seems to be a little niche genre.
It's like romantic disaster film mashup.
Yeah.
Kind of in a way. Because we always, there've been disaster films, like end of the world type disaster films over the years, and they're usually kind of straight melancholic drama. I'm thinking of like The Day After, I'm thinking of things like that. You know what I mean? But to take a more lighter tone with it, is kind of an interesting twist.
Yeah. What's the I mean, this isn't exactly a good comparison, but At World's End, like that, alien invasion, small town, group of friends, needing to get back together and kind of reconcile their relationships. And that kind of has a little bit of play into that genre. But yeah, Tony, it's been great having you, man. I appreciate you starting the heavy off in this episode.
It was a pleasure. But no, believe me, Andrew and Stephen, thank you for the invite.
Of course.
Absolutely adore it. Absolutely loved it. Love to do it again one day. But
of course.
I promise this time will be a less heavier subject matter.
Hey, you do what you want, man. If you're feeling heavy, you do it, man. It's fine.
It was kind of coincidental that these all kind of matched up in a certain way.
I honestly, just let everyone know, I had no clue what you both chose beforehand, but it was good. It was.
I say do a film festival of these 6 movies.
Yeah. Just have yourself a time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thanks for staying with us, watching along. Of course, this will also be on audio, the audio platform probably tomorrow. So if you missed out, or if you just want to listen to us babble again, you can. It'll be just on audio. And of course, we have Chasing Labels next week live here this same day next week at the same time, 9:00. So be ready for that. We also should have part 2 of our Jim Carrey movies down memory lane happening at some point in the next month. So watch for that.
Right. We just did our interview with Fran Simeone over at Radiance Films.
Yes, we did.
Which was a great interview, and
that was a good interview.
Yeah, it was. We did that very early in the morning, yet it seemed to go very, very well.
Yeah. Them are some of the toughest ones. Is the I mean, I don't know about you, Andrew. I just you wake up. I wake up like super early, and I'm just like, all right, I got 30 minutes to get down there and do an interview. And getting your mind right.
The thing is, I'm up all night watching movies, so it's like by the time I get there, it's like my mind is all like
fried.
Not fried. Yeah, I guess that's a
little fried. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was watching, the Italian Franco Nero box set beforehand, so reading subtitles all night as well takes a little bit out of you.
Mm.
It's a thing. It's a thing. But yeah,
Yes.
it was a really good time, really good interview. Radiance Films is putting out some great stuff that I've talked about here on Unwatched Pile too,
Oh,
because
they
there's so
are.
many of them.
There's a lot to watch from them. All these uncovered gems from them. So, but Tony, please tell everybody where they can listen to the Imprint Cast, the Indicator Cast, and anything coming up that you want to go ahead and just say be ready for.
Well, you can follow John Matthews and myself on the on Imprint Cast. You can follow that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, and Amazon Music. But I will be adding more platforms soon. There is one more thing I can mention.
Okay.
John and we are starting our own YouTube channel very soon.
Fantastic.
We don't know when. We don't know. Well, we are in the beginning stages, but it is going to happen very soon this year. And also, you can, if you like to follow John and myself, we are always on the Imprint Films Blu-ray Collections fan group and the Indicator Films Blu-ray Collection fan group on Facebook, as well as the Indicator one as well. That's both on Facebook as well as Imprint Cast. And you can follow me on Letterboxd under FilmNut79. And yeah, if you like to follow me on Letterboxd and see what other depressing, engaging films I'll watch, go
do it, man.
Do it.
No worries.
Watch them all. Get all heavy and sad, and get that Bergman set.
Yes.
If you don't have it, get it. It's worth it.
It's an essential in any film collection, definitely.
It is. It is. Yeah. Can it fit on anybody's shelf? No.
My biggest fear is because I have it on a top shelf. I'm afraid the shelf's gonna either break or it's gonna fall. That's my biggest fear.
It'll be all right. It'll
So
be
I
all
look
right.
at it every day. Just
It's a brick. It's a brick. It'll be fine.
It's a very rigid box, so
It is.
good.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. But that is it for this installment of the Unwatched Pile. Please mark it watched now and get the hell out of here. Watch something else. Bye. I know I'm rude.
See you later. Thank you. Bye.